Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm your host John Boyd 101 and I'm back with another video, and today we have a review on our hands, Concepts Mighty Number 9. So today I'm just here to give you my thoughts on it and my review, so I want to make things quick so we can jump into it, to the content, you guys. But I'm not alone in this review. I am joined by my brother, who is my resident Mega Man expert, who's played almost all the Mega Man games. So tell the audience how many Mega Man games you played.
I've played Classic, X, Zero, ZX, Battle Network, and Star Force. Haven't played any Legends, though.
Yes, so excellent. He has tons of knowledge on Mega Man. Mega Man's like his favorite franchise, so I decided to get him for this review because this is a spiritual successor to Mega Man. I think that he probably would bring in some extra points that I personally couldn't give. So yeah, this is our review of Mighty Number 9. I could describe Keiji Inafune's Mighty Number 9 in one word, it would be familiar, and that is in no way a negative. Any fan of the Mega Man franchise would immediately see both the similarities in both the design and structure of Mighty Number 9. But notice how I said the game was familiar instead of just more of the same. It is because Mighty Number 9 takes the elements from the original Mega Man games and improves them in some areas, and strangely doesn't in others. Now, what am I talking about? Well, let's start with the story of the game. Mighty Number 9 starts with a narration telling us about the Robot Coliseum and how all conflicts are solved there, similar to the concept of Mega Man 6's Robot Tournament story. If you thought this Robot Coliseum was going to have any kind of significance in the story, you'll be disappointed because this Coliseum only serves as a location later on in the game. Anyways, things go wrong and the robots in the Coliseum go rogue and start attacking humanity. Sound familiar? Good, because the game doesn't really try to hide the blatancy of what I just said, or other things I'll say down the road. So anyways, not Mega Man, Beck, aka Mighty Number 9, goes to meet up with his creator Dr. White, and tries to make a clear path for them so they can try to find the root of this problem. While doing this, you will learn that one of the other Mighty Numbers is affected by what's going on. Not only that, but you'll meet a new character in Mr. Graham. Yeah, this totally innocent looking man here. He is quick to inform both the world and you that this whole event is... This isn't our fault. Yeah, buddy. I believe you. This isn't our fault. So yeah, if you didn't figure this out already, Mr. Graham is completely behind what's going on here, but strangely the game still tries to set up some kind of twist. During Mr. Graham's broadcast, he names a character called Dr. Blackwell, who he claims is responsible for the crisis. I mean, why they even bother trying to set up some kind of plot twist when the person responsible was obviously shown to us in the first 5 minutes of the game? You learn later about Graham's involvement in the robot crisis later, but still, why trying to bother to divert attention to Dr. Blackwell when it's clearly Graham who's behind it all? Anyways, Beck goes to White's lab to meet up with his colleague Dr. Sonda. There at White's lab, you will learn from the military that you're pretty much screwed over. They apparently won't send in any kind of military force to help the citizens of the United States because they don't know what's going on, and they don't even bother trying either. This is the only conversation you have with the military force in the game. All this is an excuse for the military not to get involved, so Beck, White, Sonda, and his robot Call are forced to solve the problem by themselves. So from here on out, the story of Mighty Number 9 gets pretty streamlined. You, as Beck, track down and defeat all the other 8 robot Mighty Numbers in wildly different scenarios. Sound familiar? Good. After each time you defeat a Mighty Number, you will get these cutscenes where Sonda and White try to figure out the cause of why the robots are going rogue, and they get closer and closer the more you progress through the game. And after you defeat all the Mighty Numbers, you will learn finally that the cause of the robot crisis is an old prototype by Dr. White known as Trinity, a robot that can assimilate others. So after this, White, Sonda, Beck, and Call split up, with Beck and White going to Cherry Dine headquarters to question Mr. Graham, and with Sonda and Call going to the prison to talk to Dr. Blackwell. At Cherry Dine, you learn that Mr. Graham was the one to activate Trinity. No surprise here. This isn't our fault. And he did this because, in short, he's a greedy scumbag who wanted money. We also get another pretty big twist here, which is that Dr. White's real name is Bill Blackwell, son of Dr. Blackwell, and that he apparently hasn't been Bill Blackwell for a long time. And while this goes on, Sonda and Call learn not only that Blackwell didn't have any hand in the crisis in the US, but he also tried to stop it by shutting down all the robots in the United States to keep Trinity from assimilating them way earlier, thus preventing the crisis from happening much sooner. Unfortunately for him, the world didn't quite see his actions as being good, and so they kind of threw him in prison for life. As you know where the real threat is, it's up to you to stop Trinity from destroying all of humanity, so Beck goes to the now assimilated Robot Coliseum. It's time for the final battle. You have a fight with Trinity and you succeed in assimilating her, and she comes pretty peaceful after that. And after that, the game kinda just rushes to an ending. Trinity gets a new form and body, and Beck now fights in the Robot Coliseum. And White talks to Blackwell, telling him of the potential of his robots and how they can evolve ethically. Blackwell is still skeptical, and he seems like to me that he's really seen the classic Mega Man timeline, which we know
things don't go quite well.
Anyways, White walks out determined to prove himself to his father and the world, and Blackwell reflects on, with time, will Beck become a friend or a foe? After this, the game ends. All in all, this game's story is pretty standard for a platformer and definitely acceptable for Mega Man's spiritual successor. In my opinion, the story succeeds in capturing the spirit of Mega Man. There may be a couple plot threads that are never expanded upon, such as Call recognizing Beck's emotion when he speaks, in this whole contract between Mr. White and Dr. Blackwell, but I think in essence the story was pretty decent. So next is the gameplay, the meat of Mighty Number 9. Now in contrast to the classic Mega Man games, Beck does not have a chargeable buster shot. Instead, you're supposed to take out enemies in a different way, which is to use the acceleration dash, which is like a mix of the classic Mega Man slide and Mega Man X's dash. This is the fastest and most efficient way of dealing with enemies. This is because the standard buster shot takes an absurdly long time to kill enemies, and also dashing at enemies is the only way to deal permanent damage to bosses, which you can, in a lot of scenarios, slow down the pace of the levels in the boss fights. However, in most cases, I really enjoy the dash, especially when you get used to it and you can really rack up some seriously awesome combos. Like I said earlier, Beck has to track down and stop the other Mighty Numbers. So how does he do this? You guessed it, by going through 8 different stages and fighting them at the end of each level. To be honest, the levels themselves are much harder to get through than the boss themselves. When I played the first 2 Mega Man games for the purposes of review, the boss's difficulty seemed to be balanced along with the level's difficulty. Here, with the exception of the final boss stage, the levels can really give you a difficult time, and this is mostly due to bad enemy placement, the camera being too close to Beck at times, knockback, seriously tight jumps, and spikes that are completely out of sight below you. My god, these spikes in Cryo Stage really pissed me off. You have no idea what direction these things are going to be facing on the first playthrough, and that can lead to a pretty cheap death. Speaking of the Mighty Numbers themselves, I don't really have much to say about them. My 2 favorites are Avi and Cryo. Avi because of his charismatic newsman type character, and Cryo because who can hate those adorable ice puns? I certainly don't. I was honestly expecting Brand to be my favorite, mostly because of his Proto Man and Zero-like design, but instead he's...
Ah, young one, not to worry. Nothing here my blades can't handle.
Yeah, let's just say I didn't expect him to sound like that. Speaking of voice acting, I found it to be pretty decent. I think all the actors gave pretty good performances, but sometimes you get lines like this. But I don't really have much criticism on that voice acting as a whole. When you defeat a Mighty Number, you assimilate them and gain their special ability. Sound familiar? Anywho, a lot of them you will be using outside of the Cherry Down headquarters stage that I mentioned earlier. I also found myself using Avi's Ice Weapon, Brand's Sword, and Dyna's Electro Attack way more than any other weapon. This is because both the Ice and Sword weapon allows you to rack up some serious combos because you can keep that 100% combo that are really like awesome. I really love doing that. And that the electric weapon allows you to deal some great damage in a very short period of time. The other weapons aren't downright bad, they just don't compare. The only weapon you will find yourself never using, ever, is Seismic's Bulldozer type weapon. I can't really think of a single use for this weapon. The special weapons are definitely one of the weakest aspects of this game, and given that special weapons are part of what makes Mega Man so fun, this is a pretty big letdown. However, the music of the game is definitely one of the stronger elements. I really like the music of the opening stage, Cryo stage, and Avi stage as well. I think you're beginning to see a pattern. Definitely give the soundtrack of the game a listen. Absolutely, in my opinion, it captures the Mega Man spirit. And this is all because the person who directed the soundtrack, Manami Matsuda, actually did work on the original Mega Man games. All in all, Mighty Number 9, was it worth the $30 physical price point? Yes. Do I recommend the game? Definitely. Was it worth the $4 million Kickstarter price? No. This is because 1, the game's graphics. Not only are there other indie titles out there that look vastly superior to Mighty Number 9, and it's just like the graphics themselves just seem pretty mediocre. And 2, all of the delays. This game was delayed, I think, about 3 times, and people have been voicing their concerns about the graphics, etc., about the game since I think we first saw footage of like real game assets. And given all the delays, you'd think that Concept, because of all the backers and their criticism, they would try to, in some way, try to accommodate for this. Even with all that said, I am completely confident in giving Mighty Number 9 a solid 7 out of 10. I definitely had a fun time with it as a platformer, and I definitely felt like through the Mega Man games I played, I think it captured the spirit fine enough for me to say I give it an absolute thumbs up, and I give it an absolute recommendation to all of you. And even though this game has kind of been trashed online, I don't think the game is worth all of that hate that it was given, but some people have paid a lot of money for the Kickstarter. Maybe they were expecting a lot more, so I can still understand how they might feel a little bit frustrated. But definitely, I had fun with the game, and I think you guys will have fun with it as well. And I think any Mega Man fan will definitely see the parallels, and I think he'll find some kind of enjoyment in this game. Alright then, this is JonBlade 101 everybody, and I bid you a good day. Have a good one.